Lord, yes, papi, hit me one time and make it funky.
I was brought up and told to have no bed. I was brought up and told to have no bed. I was brought up and told to have no bed.
Welcome to the Full Circle Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, David Roberts. Missing tonight are the OG Dr. Neil Holmes and the oral historian Andre Taylor. So the Full Circle was more of a semicircle tonight, but that's okay because we have a special guest. We have Mr. Jalen Tate, who is an automotive applications engineer. We won't mention the agency or the organization, but it's a very well-known organization. Jalen, welcome.
Hi, how are you? Good evening.
Hey, pretty good, man. Thanks for joining us. And I think the reason I wanted to have you on because you're probably one of the few, African-American engineers that I know personally. And as you know, I work in a high school and we actually have an engineering program called Project Lead the Way. And I'm in a very diverse school, which I love. You have representatives from all over the country, just about every ethnicity that you could think of. But in Project Lead the Way, there are hardly any African-American students and that are a part of that are aspiring to be engineers. So I want to talk about your journey. Let's start from the beginning. When did you first know that you wanted to go into a career in STEM? I guess we'll call it that.
Yeah. Honestly, probably once I actually started applying for school.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is just by definition, because I think I just didn't know exactly what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think I definitely had experience or interest that would lead to wanting to have a career in STEM, but I wasn't able to crystallize if that's what that was, right? So for example, I think of as a kid, I remember when I first got a Game Boy Color, if you're familiar with that, and I would play that, and I kind of just always wondered how it worked, right?
Right.
So that's one of my earliest memories of being interested in technology itself, but I didn't necessarily know that what career path would lead to someone that works in that type of field, right? So to answer your question, technically, I would say once I actually started applying to school and had to apply to an actual major. But I definitely did have an interest in tech as I was younger, but I wasn't necessarily able to identify exactly what that was.
Now, of course, I know a little bit about you. So I know you were, in honors classes or, maybe your school called them AP, maybe they called them honors, whatever the case may be, but you always did well in school. Now, myself being a school counselor, if I see a young person that is excelling in math and science, I'm not going to say I'm going to push them towards that STEM because I want them to pursue, what their interests are. But a lot of high school students have no idea what they want to do, as far as a career. So I would probably recommend that or encourage them to look into that. Do you feel like with the grades you were getting in school, and I know you went to diverse schools as well, do you feel like you were encouraged to pursue that?
Um, Honestly, not really, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely was I knew I had aptitude for learning math and science, right? But I don't really recall anyone ever saying, at least in school, right? Hey, you should think about being an engineer, right? My mom kind of told me about that,
Right.
but that was really, I would say, as far as being pushed to become an engineer because of the science and math that I would be pretty good at. I wouldn't say that in school I really was pushed towards that. But what they did do, I guess, was kind of encourage me to take higher math classes and more other sciences, right? But as far as what that career path looked like, I didn't really get much guidance, I would say. But I think I also because I did move or switch schools halfway through, the school in Atlanta, Georgia. Then I moved to Ohio, and I didn't really have a good high school counselor when I moved to Ohio in general. So I think that may be part of the reason why as well. So yeah, I would say I didn't really get like a direct push like that.
Do you feel along the way, and I'm not trying to start anything here, just asking questions. Do you feel along the way that you were ever discouraged from taking any higher level classes, or actually discouraged from pursuing STEM careers, or career in STEM, I should say?
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I ever felt that way or
All right.
have any memories of that.
Now, do you have an opinion, because like I said, in the school that I'm in, of course, this is a different time than when you were in school, but the STEM field has grown exponentially, but we're still underrepresented. Do you have an opinion, even if it's just speculation, as to why more African-American, especially African-American males, don't pursue careers in STEM?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think it comes down to exposure for the most part. Because even for me, right, like I didn't really know what an engineer was. I didn't have any engineers really in my family either. So I think that, even if you have, a young African American male, right, that's good in math and science, which is a good indication that you may be a good engineer, right? I think most of the times kids just don't really know what that is, or they don't have that exposure to it, or like the representation even in their own family, right? So I think like, when I look at other people, other races, like a lot of people I meet that are engineers or were studying engineering, they had uncles or their fathers or whoever, mother, were engineers as well, right? So they kind of, it's almost like a lineage thing, right? Like
Right.
the people I work with, like, they're kind of already like raising their kids to be engineers, right? So
Right.
I think that's a big part of it that I've seen, because I've done like community outreach and stuff like within my career, and that's something I've noticed time and time again, for sure.
Now, you touched on a point I want to expound upon. You mentioned like you didn't know basically what an engineer does. You, as an automotive applications engineer, tell us basically what your job is, what you do. I don't think most people know.
Yeah, exactly. So the company I work in the semiconductor industry. So we manufacture, produce, and sell our own like computer chips, essentially. And we work in different industries, right? So I work within the automotive industry, but we also work with personal electronics. So kind of what that looks like, right, is if you were to disassemble your phone and see the electronics, like the circuit board and the different chips in there, we sell some of those products, the chips themselves. So for me, I kind of, as an automotive application engineer, I'm involved in the application of those chips. And what that kind of means is like the circuit around it, kind of defining how it's used. And I work with our automotive customers, right? So I may work with like Tesla or, um, Hyundai, whoever, right? And kind of help them use the chips that my group sells in a good way, and kind of like just inform them about it, sell the chips, and give like technical support as well.
Okay. So let's jump to your college career. And of course, we can mention the college, the Ohio State University. Wasn't a good weekend last weekend, but we won't go into that. What are some of the challenges? Or let me back up. Like when you first started as a freshman, was it a shock? Was it like, okay, this isn't high school, this is really intense? Was it like that for you, or was it a seamless transition?
It was hard, definitely starting out. But so I think one thing that did kind of help me a little bit was I did like almost like a summer program in between my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college. So that kind of helped with the transition, because I was essentially taking classes that kind of had like the same rigor as engineering courses.
No problem.
I was taking classes that had like the same rigor as engineering courses, but didn't necessarily count for your actual grades. So I got to kind of get an understanding of how much you actually need to study, and kind of what the workload could look like. And honestly, like freshman year wasn't too difficult, because the way the engineering program works in my school is like your freshman year kind of not too difficult, but they kind of start having like what they call weed out classes your sophomore year once you actually get into your major. So I would say like freshman year was decent transition, especially with the summer program I did. But my sophomore year, when I started taking courses in my major, is when it got pretty tough. So like higher level maths and the actual like electrical engineering courses, we were learning the fundamentals. That was a bit more difficult for sure.
Now, do you feel, and I'll just share this with you, and I'm hopefully it's changed now, because of course you went to college about, 25 years after I did. But I remember when I first graduated high school, and I had friends that went all over, and I had some friends at Ohio State. And some of them shared with me at that time that it was kind of hostile, the campus towards African Americans. Hopefully that had changed in that, 25-year period. Did you experience any of that, any hostility? And I mean, probably more specifically as being in the engineering program.
No.
No, that's good. That's good news.
Nah, I wouldn't say no.
That's good. I wanted your honest answer. I'm not looking for like, tell me, I know it happened. No. So
Yeah, no, I didn't feel that. No.
And you didn't feel any discouragement from any faculty or anything within the engineering program at all?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say anything like that. No.
All right, that's good to know. I'm glad to hear that. Now let's jump to when you graduated and you started working within the profession. What are some of the challenges you feel you faced transitioning from college into, actually working within your field?
When I first started working, I kind of maybe just like not feeling like prepared, I guess. I made an effort to make sure I did internships, which helped a lot while I was in undergrad. But I think I kind of felt like working corporate America is a challenge in itself. And like that's kind of besides the work, right? So like the work is challenging, but then it's also challenging working in corporate America and kind of like, navigating the right way, right? Working with people, etc. And I think like there's certain things you can do when you start out working to kind of get ahead that I just didn't know about at all, right? So, there's certain ways you should move, when you start working. And I did feel like, just settling in was kind of difficult. Kind of like understanding like the politics of it, and kind of just like how people move. They kind of move a certain way, right? And how that can affect like the trajectory of your career, but also just like, how people look at you and those type of things. Because I didn't have any idea about any of that.
So for the young people that'll be, watching this, can you give us some examples of that? And things maybe you felt like if you would have known, you would have done X, Y, and Z?
Yeah. Let's see. So I guess one thing for me is like, I kind of really pride myself in just kind of staying true to who I am. And like, I'm willing to be outspoken about things that I like internally actually like care about or feel as maybe wrong or disagree with, right? Nothing like crazy, right? Like even if it's just like a business decision, right?
Right.
If I don't agree with it, I'm going to speak up on how I feel or what I think, right? But sometimes that may not be in your best interest, right?
Right.
So, sometimes I've noticed like people, it can almost reflect on you better to just kind of say yes and agree with people, even if you don't truly feel that way, right? And I kind of had to learn that throughout my career, right? It's kind of like sometimes you may want to like hold your tongue or just do what you're told essentially, and it'll be easier in the long run. So that's something specifically I've had to learn and adapt to.
Can you give an example of one time where maybe you did speak up, and then how did that impact you?
Yeah. I think just generally like it's just a losing battle. Like, you know, so say like there's an assignment that, your boss wants you to work on and they want you to do it in a certain direction and you're just like, I don't think that's what's needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I found in my experience is that it doesn't matter what I think, right? It's like you have to like they're, even like your performance at your job, right? Like it kind of, if you do what they want, what they think is needed for the business or what they want, then it makes you look in a better light, right?
Right.
So it can almost even if objectively like what in some circumstances, right, like what you think is right may be like objectively right or like the better thing to do. Um, even if it would have like a better impact or help the business more, like doing what they want would help you more, right?
Right.
It'd reflect better on you, right? So yeah, things like that happen.
And and what's interesting about that, even though STEM is a prestigious field, you have a prestigious degree from a prestigious institution. You first start in that corporation, you're still the low man on the totem pole.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was in college, a friend of mine, and she was a member of a Greek organization, and she was very, I guess, as we would say, gung ho, and she was very pro Greek life, thinking that everybody should, pledge. And so one day she said to me, she said, pledging is like a crash course on life. And I thought she was just kind of like exaggerating a little bit. But then, later on through life, as I did certain things, like started, working at this organization or this organization, I understood what she was saying. Like basically, you have to go through this process where you're like, how it is when people pledge, you're like, uh, dog poop, basically, for those 6 weeks, however long you pledge. And then when you become a member of the organization, you're a full-fledged member of the organization. So yeah, like you may be in a position now where, okay, you can't speak up about things, but then you may work your way up to management or something, or not even management, just having been there, having that tenure where you may feel not only more comfortable speaking up about things, but you have the prestige where what you say actually will mean something. Because like you said, low man on the totem pole, they're not caring right now. It's like, we took you in, we hired you, just do what we say. For
Yeah,
the
like
most part.
instances where like someone on my team, like we may say the same exact thing, but
Mhm.
I'm not going to be heard, right? But if they say it, it's like, okay, yeah, right, like of course, right?
Right.
And
Because
that
they've been there.
has like been working for at the company for a while, right? And they kind of have like that, like you said, like they have the merit, at least from it's seen as merit, right? Like
Right.
they've been working there for a while, so their voice is actually like heard and valued.
And I think that's something important that for the young people that will be watching this, to know that you do have to earn your stripes. That's
Yeah.
just the reality of life. Now, so I keep referencing young people for the last portion of this, and this will probably be a shorter one, because if you've ever watched us before, the OG Dr. Neil Holmes, he usually has so much insight on things that he'll stretch things out. And of course, people always comment to me, man, Dr. Holmes be breaking things down. So I can't break everything down like Dr. Holmes. But what I would like to do for the last portion is talk about, or talk directly to young people, like people that are in high school, maybe even middle school, that they've heard that, okay, the STEM field is lucrative, it's prestigious. What advice would you give them as far as if they want to pursue this field?
I would say don't be apprehensive, don't be scared, because anyone can do this stuff, right? Like, I think one thing that I definitely have felt at times is kind of like imposter syndrome, right? Like, do I belong, right? Do I fit in with this crowd? Like, am I smart enough to do this, right? And you are, right? It really just takes discipline. I think you do generally have to have like an aptitude for math and science, right? But if you want to be an engineer, if you're interested in it, you can do it. Like, don't let anything hold you back. And there's a lot of reward in being an engineer. It's a very, stimulating job. It's pretty cool, honestly.
Right.
Making money, right? So,
Right.
I would say like, yeah, just don't be afraid. Don't ever think that you're not good enough or smart enough. Don't compare yourself to others, right? I think a lot of times in school, like, you kind of think of the stereotypical like super genius engineer who gets A's whenever those people exist, right?
Right.
But you don't have to be that to excel in this field. Um, so yeah, I would say like just if it's something you're interested in, just go for it. Um, it's definitely a career that's worth pursuing, and you can get a lot out of it.
And that's interesting that you say that, and that's kind of where I thought you would go.
Yeah.
And I want to, give you a scenario. As a school counselor, I help kids, as to schedule their courses for the following year. So when I'm sitting down with a student that maybe their grades are good enough where they can take those AP classes, and then I explain to them, I say that, well, this class is weighted. So if you get an A in this class, it'll be worth 5 points towards your GPA instead of 4 points. They get all excited about that, right? And then within 2 weeks, the following school year in this AP class, they come to me and they want to drop out, because the class is so rigorous. And to me, it's like, I try to encourage them to stick it out, because anything that you want, like you just touched on, you're going to have to work hard at it. Mm-hmm. To you, how important are those AP classes, or not even necessarily AP, just taking the most rigorous classes or rigorous curriculum that you can take in high school? How important is that?
I guess I look at it in two ways.
Mm-hmm.
One, I see like AP courses as being important because it allows you to be more competitive in your applications at school, right?
Right.
So, it allows you to, if you take AP courses, you have a higher GPA, right? It allows you to get into these programs that can be very competitive and selective, right? But I think what I would say is more important is like when, AP courses are known for the rigor, but I would say more so than that, you need to take classes that challenge you, right? So even if it's maybe like an honors class that may be a level below AP, if that's something that will challenge you and push you, then that's what you should be taking, right? And like I said, don't really compare yourself to others. Like if honors is what challenges you, then go for that, right?
Right.
Because I think what both courses can teach you is the hard work, like you said, that's needed, right? Like you need to be disciplined, you need to study, you need to be focused, right? And I think high school is a good time to build those habits, because that will carry over to undergrad and also to your professional career, right? Because you're gonna need to learn how to do that, right? If you don't, you won't succeed, right? Because I've failed classes in undergrad. I've been the one to drop out AP classes in high school, right? And it honestly was because I was lazy, right? And if you want to be lazy, you're not going to be able to get far in life, honestly, right? So you need to, I think, take those hard classes, because I think you would realize that if you challenge yourself and, like you said, you're in AP class and you're like, I can't do this, right? And 2 weeks later, you want to drop out. If you stick with it and you're disciplined and you work hard, you'll learn a lot about yourself. You'll prove to yourself that you have those attributes, that you can do it. And even if for whatever reason you're not a hard worker, you can become one, right? You can change to become that, right? And like you said, AP classes are a good way to actually like change your behaviors and learn how to be that way. And I guarantee you, like, if you're thinking about dropping a class 2 weeks in, but you actually follow through and finish it out, that will be more rewarding than anything, right? That, it's you'll get a lot out of that. And I think those type of experiences will carry on to the next level, with undergrad courses, because it's going to happen again. You're going to take a very hard engineering course, but you've already been through that struggle and you can overcome it, right? And then the same is going to happen in your professional career. You're going to run some challenges, but you know that you can overcome those. And that's something you need to have, not only in engineering, with taking AP classes, but just in life in general, I would say. So don't be afraid to take those AP classes. If you fail, that's okay too, right? Like,
Right.
you know, you can still work through it. So, yeah, I would challenge anyone that is afraid or, you know, maybe want to drop a class, something of that nature, to, you know, challenge yourself. Try to be hardworking, try to push through it. And I guarantee you, if you are able to do that, then you'll come out a lot stronger and you'll prove to yourself that you can overcome whatever's in front of you.
That's good. And that would actually be a good point to close on, you know, especially with young people that are going to see this. But I just want to ask one final question. Where do you see yourself going with your engineering career? Like, what's your, like, in the future?
That I don't know yet. I would say that, you know, as a career, I do like engineering because I find it to be like stimulating, right? Like mentally stimulating is challenging. And that's important to me in my just day-to-day work life. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think that I do have a skill set to be a good engineer. But I think that, you know, it's a complicated field, right? But I think I also have kind of a gift for teaching, I think. Like I can, you know, I can explain things to people in ways they'll understand. And because sometimes engineers, if you talk to one, they just like use a bunch of jargon and, you know, talk over your head, right? And they don't really know how to break things down. So I think that for me, I kind of want to just, you know, be as successful as I can in engineering to be an example for other people, because I would get more fulfillment out of seeing younger people who look like me, right? Or don't look like me, right? Whoever aspires to be an engineer, they would see someone like me doing it and I can like have some kind of impact on them and encourage them to continue going through the process to become an engineer, and they can get fulfillment out of it. I think that's kind of along the lines I want to take my career. So I kind of want to just, you know, keep driving, keep overcoming challenges, learning more about engineering, becoming quote unquote successful, right? Kind of become like a leader within the field, just to inspire others and kind of show them that they can do the same thing.
Hey, good. That's great. Well, you know, if you became a, you know, if you went into education full time, you'd be taking a pay cut, right? You do.
I'll say engineer.
Hey, well, last thing, if there are any young people that, you know, are watching this and they're looking at pursuing, you know, engineering, is there a way they could probably reach out to you to ask you any questions that you would like to share?
Yeah. I feel like young people don't use LinkedIn. So I would say just shoot me an email. I'll see it. So people can email me at tate4428@gmail.com.
Okay.
So if you want to learn more about engineering or you have any questions, I'm happy to help. So, yeah.
Okay, and I'll make sure to post that in the comments, post your email address in the comments. Well, Jalen, I really want to thank you for joining us. I'm sure that, you know, what you said has been very helpful because, like you said, a lot of engineers that talk a lot of jargon, but don't, you know, make it, you know, simple and plain for young people that are looking at possibly pursuing the field. So again, thanks for joining us. Hey, it's very much appreciated.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem.
Lord, yes, papi. Hit me one time and make it funky.
I was brought up and told to have no fear.